best redemption arcs of all time. The first one. So there are spoilers in here. Because these are things I've seen. And that's not to say everybody else has. So if you see this, boop. If you see this here, then spoiler alert. So if you see that there, and you see something on my screen here that looks like something you may not know, then mute my ass. Mute my ass. Don't you blame me for spoiling you when this motherfucker's here being all obvious. Spoiler alert. Okay, we got that out of the way. Okay. All right. So I say that for a reason, because number one, Gabby from Attack on Titan. Spoiler alert. If you have not been caught up with the manga of Attack on Titan, mute my ass until this picture changes. You feel me? Okay. So Gabby. Let's talk about Gabby. So Gabby is a character that was introduced in the final season of Attack on Titan. And she is representative of indoctrination, right? So, as you guys know, Attack on Titan, it's about, like, a little island. An island with, like, fucking, like, a bunch of people that are on this island with a bunch of, like, giant monsters that eat them. So they live in constant fear. We found out in season 3 that those people, they were thinking that this island wasn't even an island. They thought that this place was the world. They thought this was the whole world because they've been there for 1,000 years. 1,000 years of generations have lived on this island. So if they're all they knew, and they only lived within these walls of the island, so for all they knew, this is the world. It's the whole world. We found out in season 3, it's not the case. It's not the case. Apparently, this island is an island off the coast of a large continent. And in that continent, there's a country called Marley. And Marley is full of a whole population of two different populations of people. One is the Marleyans, and two is the Eldians. And the Eldians are, like, genetically predisposed to become Titans. We find out that all of the Titans we've seen in the show used to be people that got injected with something and turned into those Titans. So that's the backstory. So open season 4, we get introduced to this kind of Hitler Youth-esque type of person named Gabby. We find out that the Titans, the Eldians in Marley, are being, I guess they're second-class citizens. They, like, live in concentration camps, and the only way out of the concentration camp is to, like, serve in the Marleyan army, and to, like, do something heroic. So a bunch of kids are encouraged to try to become these special Titans, where they, like, are actively they're choosing to become Titans, and they're, like, smart Titans with special powers. It's like an elite core of kids, and they're always kids. And the reason why they're kids is because when you become these elite Titans, your life expectancy, your lifespan gets shortened to 13 years from that point. So you'll die in 13 years after the point that you inherit the special Titan. And if they join this core, it basically buys freedom, per se, if they get chosen more. If they get chosen to become these Titans, it buys their Eldian family freedom from the concentration camps. So it's really fucked up. It's really fucked up that, like, these kids are, like, pressured to do this so that their parents don't have to live in a fucking concentration camp. So, enter Gabby. She's raised from birth. Everybody in Marley is raised from birth to hate Eldians. So, and she is an Eldian. All of these people are Eldians, but they're born to hate kind of themselves. And more than themselves, they hate what would they call the island devils. So the people that are sent to the island are people that the Marley government deems like war criminals. Like that's their punishment. Their punishment is to be sent to the island as a Titan. And so the humans that live on the island are seen as terrorists. They're seen as like devils. They're seen as inherently evil because they're the ones that did this tragedy from 1,000 years ago where they wiped out all the Titans were running rampant and like killing Marleyans. And now that's why Marley hates Eldians, and that's why they hate the island devils. So she was born from birth taught to hate them, and hate them, to say that they, oh man, they're gonna kill us. Like those are people. Even it's very interesting, the commentary. This show is actually rad. But I don't want to get into Attack on Titan. I really want to get like focused on Gabby here, because she's seen as like a really hateful person. The first atrocious act she does in season 4 is she kills Sasha. Like, she shoots Sasha. And Sasha's like a character that's been on the show since like season 1, so like everybody was already hating her at that point. Then she sneaks onto the air blimp, and goes back to the island, Paradise Island. She's actually taken like, prisoner, because they're just like, you fucking killed Gabby, you little bitch, and all that shit. So they take her prisoner. She gets taken prisoner, and in the prison, the guards are nice to her. They're giving her like food and water, and they're just like, they wanted her to be okay. They only took her as a prisoner of war because she killed Sasha, and like they don't know what to do with her, but they're not being cruel to her. And what she does is she lures one of the guards inside by like saying like she has a stomach ache or something, and he's like, oh my god, let me help you, because he's being nice, and she beats him nearly to death with a fucking brick. That's the second fucked up thing she does. Then her and the other kid, Falco, go out and they escape. They get found by this family, who just happens to be Sasha's adoptive family. They get found by this family that takes them in and feeds them. They're like starving at this point. Feeds them, clothes them, give them shelter. Be like, you can stay with us as long as you need to. And the whole time she's thinking, these island devils. And Falco's just like, bitch, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, they're like clothing and feeding us, bitch. Like, be humble. And she's sitting here like, nah, fuck these people. And anyway, she does a whole bunch of fucked up shit. And in the show that we've seen so far, that's what she's done in what we've seen in the show so far. We're not even in the manga yet. She's done a lot of fucked up shit. Her redemption. How does she redeem herself? She does a few things. Like, she basically does some clutch shit in this last half of the final season that redeem her. She makes it so that we're in spoiler territory now, so mute me now if you're not caught up. There's like a whole arc that's coming up after the current arc that we saw on Sunday. There's like a whole other arc coming up where our heroes need to steal an airboat, to go catch up with Eren. Oh, hell yes, senpai. Thanks for stopping by. Heads up. I'm saying some spoiler ass shit on Attack on Titan, so mute me if you're not caught up. No worries. Feel better soon. So there's like an arc where they have to steal an airboat so that they can go to Marley. I don't want to spoil more than I have to here. So there's a very important reason why they have to go to Marley, and they just steal this airboat from the Jaegerists. They almost don't get away, but have a good night, senpai. Have a good night. Hell yeah. So they almost don't get away, and Gabby comes in clutch and snipes one of the dudes. Basically one of the dudes almost like blew up the boat and killed everybody, and she sniped him in the head. She domed the motherfucker and killed him so that they could get away. That was like the first thing she did. There was other things. Oh, God, I can't even remember all of the fucking badass shit she did. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, point is, without spoiling too much, Gabby, believe it or not, guys, Gabby does get redeemed. I hated her. When I was reading the manga before the season started, and I hated this bitch. I was like, fuck Gabby, fuck her mama, fuck her uncle, fuck Rhina, fuck everything about any of them. I want them to die. And then I kept reading, and I shit you not, she really does get redeemed. So I can't talk too much on Gabby without spoiling more, and I don't want to spoil more than I have to. So Gabby is the first one. All right, spoiler off. No more spoilers. That's a lie. There are definitely spoilers. Number 2, Abby from The Last of Us 2. Y'all, I've talked about this before. If we want to talk about characters that I hated when we first got introduced to them, Abby is pretty much on the top of that. She's very, very near Gabby here. So in The Last of Us, the end of The Last of Us, Joel is like really attached to Ellie. And Ellie's immune to this virus that is killing the planet, all of humanity on the planet. So these scientists want to take her brain and make a cure out of it. And Joel selfishly kills all of the scientists, takes Ellie, and single-handedly dooms humanity. So in Last of Us Part 2, this group of people murder Joel in cold blood. And we find out they're led by Abby, because one of the doctors that Joel murdered in cold blood was her dad. And she saw him dead. For no reason either. Like, not even a good reason. Not even a fucking good reason. So she had a very fucking good reason to, like, want revenge. The thing is, we don't know that yet. So we spend the whole first half of the game not understanding the context of Abby, not understanding why. Give me a sec. Sorry, I had to recalibrate. We spend the whole first part of the game not understanding why she did what she did. So we're just thinking that these Fireflies just wanted to kill Joel just because he doomed humanity, but it was personal for her. We felt because we're introduced to this group of people like this, like we can't empathize with them. We just see them as a hateful ass group of people that killed this character that we grew so attached to. So we spend the whole first half of this game playing as Ellie, and through her eyes, we're thinking, oh man, we want revenge. Like, we're just like, oh, we're gonna fucking kill this group of people up in Seattle. Fuck these people. Fuck them. We're gonna kill their asses. And it's an eye for an eye. And we get to the point where, like, Ellie is kind of mowing through all of them. Like, she goes from point to point in Seattle and she murders them one by one. We don't get a lot of context on what they're doing. But there's like one where we killed them in like an apartment building. There was one where I think a hotel. There's another one where we killed the Fireflies in a fucking hospital because we needed to go to a hospital for some reason. I forget. But yeah, there's a lot of that. And so Ellie's like just going through Seattle, just killing these people one by one. And then we come to an intersection point of the game where Abby shows up at the hideout that Ellie's at, saying, "You killed all of my friends. I'm gonna kill you now." So now we're like, fuck this bitch, Abby. And then the game shifts to a couple of days prior, and now we're in Abby's point of view. We're in Abby's point of view after, let me think. Yeah. We're in Abby's point of view after they get back from Seattle. After they get back to Seattle from killing Joel. And we find out that they're just another group of survivors, just like Ellie's group of survivors. You know, they are all holed up at the stadium. They have like a society. They have kind of like a military, like which she's a part of. Everybody has to like contribute and all this stuff. And if you're not contributing, you can't stay there. Things like that. There's women and kids and families and elderly. There's like a whole population of people trying to just survive the same thing. And they're bitter. And they're bitter because the hope that they had to fix now they're just living with it because like this guy Joel took that possibility of like saving the world from everybody. Now they just have to live with it. So they're getting by and they're making jokes and they're likable. We find out that these same characters that we watched coldly murder Joel, they're like friends and they're lovers and they make jokes and they have desires and they have wants and they have sorrows and we find out they're human. Who knew? And Abby is going through her own personal turmoil because she led this expedition to murder Joel. She did it, but she still feels empty. She still has her trauma. She still has nightmares about finding her dad dead, you know? It didn't really help her. Like, killing Joel was satisfying, I guess, for her, but it didn't fix anything with her life. She's still unhappy. She still doesn't have her man. Her man went to some other chick. You know, it sucks. But then we find out Ellie's in Seattle. And they're just like, because Ellie like killed somebody or something. No, it wasn't even Ellie that was in Seattle. It was Joel's brother that arrived first. And there was like he was like murdering people. So her and a couple of troops had to mobilize to try to track him down. He's like, hey man, he's trying to kill us. This is the guy that was from that he followed up here. So as they're trying to track him down, this is happening in parallel with Ellie, who's arrived to the city, who's killing all of her friends. All of these people that we started like actually getting to know are starting to all die off, you know? And Abby is just finding out, like, she killed her too? What? Like, all they were trying to do was like get medicine from the hospital to bring back to the stadium and stuff. They're trying to fucking survive. Basically exactly what they did to Ellie. Ellie's doing to them. Killing each other, killing them all, and Abby's getting increasingly mad about it. So she's trying to find Ellie too. She's also becoming kind of consumed in her revenge to Ellie because Ellie's killing all of her family, her new family, I guess. And along the way, part of what gives Abby her redemption from that evil thing she did, part of the thing that saves her is because she comes across a child and the child's sister, there's like a faction of like cultists that formed up near the Space Needle that are like super hyper religious and they want, I don't know, they want women to like bear children and all that stuff, and they want clear gender roles, and this child is trans and identifies as male, and they hate that. So the child runs away, and the child's sister runs away with them. Abby finds them and tries to help them, help them get away and help them get to safety. At first she didn't want anything to do with them, but for some reason, like, that it appealed to her humanity to like help them. So she decided to help them. Eventually the sister gets killed. So now the child is like, Abby's all the child has. They don't get along at first, but eventually they come to like really care about each other. They come to like love each other, like, because they're all each other has. And the child is starting to fill that hole that her dad left, being able to care about somebody. So all in all, Abby ended up being more likable, I think, than even Ellie was. I think Abby's redemption arc from the shitty thing she did at the beginning of the game all the way to the end of the game was like primo. It was primo. It was really good. So Abby, that's number one. All right, next one. Aunt Lydia. So Aunt Lydia is from a show called The Handmaid's Tale, which is also a book, and she's kind of shitty. So Handmaid's Tale is like a post. Let me take a sip from my smoothie. It's like if the United States, if like hyper right-wing, ultra-religious people decided to just like violently take over the United States, because that's effectively what happened. Like, they killed all of the people in Congress, and like they killed the president and decided that this was a new country with new laws, and they took all of the rights away from women. Women were no longer have rights, because like the idea is that people are like not fertile anymore. So anybody that like people can't have kids. So anybody that is able to get pregnant is turned into something called a handmaid, which is effectively a breeding mule of a person. Like they have like ritual rape sessions where they try these fucking commanders, quote unquote commanders, like take the handmaids. They like own the women. It's really fucked up. They own them and do that to them to try to get them pregnant so that they can give them children. And then if they do get pregnant, they take their kids away from them. So it's really fucked up. This world is fucked up. So what Aunt Lydia is, what these aunts are older women that couldn't have kids, that they put through really brutal training to make them ruthless. Because these aunts are the ones that kind of brainwash is the wrong word. They beat these women that are being made handmaids into submission, like with violence. Like they pluck out their eyes, they cut off their hands because they're saying, oh, they don't need this to bear kids. Like, it's really, really, really fucked up. And Aunt Lydia is like arguably the most brutal of the aunts. Like, they're all brutal. The idea is, so let me get into that. So The Testaments is the sequel. So The Handmaid's Tale, we saw Aunt Lydia kind of just be really shitty in general. We didn't really actually see much from her point of view. It was just her just being a really shitty person. Hey, Soleil. We're talking about redemption arcs, and we're in the best ones right now. So this is, Aunt Lydia is one of the better redemption arcs. I'm actually going to put the spoiler alert on, because if you haven't read The Testaments, I don't know if the TV show is going to follow The Testaments. They've kind of diverged already. But I'm just going to say spoiler alert, just because I'm going to talk about what happens in The Testaments, what happens with Aunt Lydia's character. So if you haven't seen it, maybe mute me. But yeah. So she's pretty shitty in The Handmaid's Tale. We pretty much hate her ass. In The Testaments, however, this is the sequel that came out 2 years ago. It's a novel. And it recounts from her point of view, pretty much. And we find out that the aunts, and we actually do find this out in the show too. The show actually depicted this as well. But what happens is, back when this horrible Gilead government was starting out, when they started abducting older women and putting them in these stadiums, depriving them of food and making it so they couldn't shower. They were dirty. They had to just like be living in these quarters, and they had to take like training. They had to like learn how to use a gun, and they had to learn how to like, they had to learn this like fucking Bible of the Gilead. They had to learn all of this shit. And the idea is that these commanders, these people, these dudes that like were heading it, would choose a group of the women and they would choose like the strong ones and quote unquote the weak ones, and they would force the quote strong ones to kill the weak ones, and they had to do it over and over and over again, and they had to or they die, they get shot in the head. So it showed, the testaments showed all of the fucked up shit they had to put Aunt Lydia through, and all she's thinking is survive. I think she was like a lawyer before. Hey bulls, welcome. So I think Aunt Lydia was like a lawyer before Gilead. So she was a really smart, educated woman, and they didn't like that. Gilead didn't like that when women were educated. They didn't like really when women were anything but mothers. Like it was really fucked up. So she was very smart. We find out in the testaments she has been playing the long game. She's been playing her part, doing these horrible things to not only survive, but to also eventually help take this shit down, to take Gilead down. In the Testaments, it's following 3 different parallel stories, and we find out in the other 2 stories that there is a small coup going on in Gilead. They want to end it, and there's a whistleblower within Gilead, somebody high up, that is feeding information to the relief in Canada. And we find out late in this book that it was Aunt Lydia the whole time. That from the start, she wanted to fucking end this shit. We thought that Aunt Lydia was the most devoted of the aunts. Nah, bitch. Nah, she, from the get-go, was playing the long haul, playing her cards right, so that she could end this shit. And then we actually find out at the end of Testaments that Gilead did end. And it was because of her. She gets a statue. She sacrificed her life because she was found out. And they executed her. Because she gets her recognition. She has a statue. Like, it was really, I cried my eyes out when I made the realization that Aunt Lydia was good the whole fucking time, and that the only reason why Gilead even fell was because of her. I cried my fucking eyes out. So Aunt Lydia's redemption arc was so fucking good, and mostly because of the Testaments. It seems like the TV show is not going in the same direction, so I don't really know. I don't really know if the TV show is going to go in the same direction with her being the good guy. We'll see. We'll see. The TV show was already ongoing, but by the time, like, it was already on season 3 by the time Testaments came out. So I don't fucking know. We'll see. But Aunt Lydia, cool. Spoiler off. Prince Zuko. Let me tell you about a redemption arc. This is another kid, just like Gabby, that was raised in a world telling him that there were people that were better than him, that he's better than. Like, that the Fire Nation is just the apex race. They're the better humans, and all other tribes were meant to be subjugated by the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation has a divine right to rule over the world. And he was fucking, this shit was like beaten into his brain by his horrible sociopathic father. Like, and then what happens early on is like I don't even remember what it was. It was something small. You know what it was? I think it was that his father wanted to teach him a lesson or something. And I think it was something stupid. It was just like Zuko didn't want to do something. He didn't want to do something cruel that the father told him to do. So then the father challenges him to an Agni Kai, which is like a fucking duel with his own son, I think his son was like 12 at the time. And he fucking permanently maims his fucking son and gives him the scar. And then exiles him. After that, he exiles him. He did that, and then he exiled him. Saying, don't come back until you're fucking worthy or some shit like that. His father's horrible. So this poor kid is fucking going through life thinking, oh my God, I have to go find the Avatar. I have to I have to do all of this thing so I can regain my favor with my father and take my rightful place at his side. Like his poor fucking uncle is trying to tell him, no, you don't. My brother's a cunt. Like you don't need to do anything. Just be you. Just enjoy your childhood. Poor Zuko. So Zuko spends like the whole first season, and I think a lot into the second season, trying to hunt down the Avatar, because he's thinking, oh man, if I deliver the Avatar to my dad, that's totally going to bring me back in his favor. And in this time, Iroh is trying to teach him, like, violence isn't everything. The way that your father rules is not necessarily the way that you have to rule one day. Eventually, he's put in situations where he has to work together with with Aang and Katara. Eventually, they become friends. Eventually, they start to work together. Eventually, he's convinced against his father finally, and I think part of that has to do with his crazy ass bitch sister Azula, who is a sociopath like her father. And she just wants to straight up kill Zuko. She's just like, I want to be the empress. So he eventually just goes on this whole ass arc, just finally learning the lesson that you can rule and not, you don't have to have like fear and death and fire to rule. You can rule benevolently. You don't have to rule with an iron fist. And he learns that, and he works together with Aang and Katara and the gang to overthrow the Fire Nation, and he becomes the Fire Lord, Fire Lord Zuko, and he's like the first peaceful Fire Lord, like ever. So Zuko has a really, really great arc too. So he rocks. Next one, Booker DeWitt from Bioshock Infinite. Okay, so Booker DeWitt, Bioshock Infinite is a mindfuck of a game, dog. It's fucking sheesh. Let me take a sip of my smoothie. So Booker DeWitt is like a contract investigator. You don't know him? Oh, Lordy. Oh, you're in for a treat. So Booker DeWitt is like a contract investigator, right? He has, when the game opens, he's depressed. He's a drinker. He has nightmares. He gets approached by this man and this woman who look remarkably similar. They look like twins, like fraternal twins. And they're like, you need to bring us the girl to wipe away the debt. Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. So he has some debt that they don't explain what the debt is. He just knows that he has a debt that needs to wipe away. So his mission is to go get this girl. Hey, blood, welcome. We're talking about redemption arcs and the best ones and the worst ones. And this is one of the best ones. Booker DeWitt from Bioshock Infinite. So they send him to this lighthouse. They give him this paper saying, put this code in, and then you'll go to bring us the girl and wipe away the debt. The lighthouse sends him shooting in the air above the clouds to a city that's floating up in the stratosphere, which was incredible. This is like one of the coolest looking games ever fucking made. Like, holy shit. It's very up there with Bioshock. It's quite frankly one of the better of the 3 Bioshock games. Like, I cannot rank those games because they're all fucking fantastic games, but it's up there. So he gets there. He finds out that this city has been floating up there for I think 20, 30 odd years or something like that. No, I forget what year it was. I want to say the year was actually like in the 40s, but the way that the city looks, it looks like it's in like 1910. It's like frozen in time in 1910, including like how everybody talks, the segregation. There's a lot of racism in this game. They do not like black folks, and they do not like interracial couples. They don't like gay people. They don't like LGBT. They don't like it. It's there, and they're really fucking vocal about it. Like, there's some fucking cringe ass moments in this game where I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna have to ignore that. It's a game. It's in the world, and I'm just gonna have to just ignore that. So there's some moments, y'all. But it's very immersive, the world. So he finds out that this place, this city called Columbia, is led by this kind of dictator. He's like a religious dictator named Father Comstock, and he's kind of a fucking psycho, and he's racist as shit. And he's keeping his daughter hostage in this tower. Very, very Rapunzel-esque. So he's just like, oh man, that must be the girl, so I need to go find her. So Booker goes to the tower, treks his way through this racist-ass city. Like, oh god, it's fucked up. There's even a moment at the beginning at the beginning of the game, where you roll up to like this stage and you find out like it looks like it's gonna be like a fun, yeah, I know, right? Father Comstock, thank you, I like that. That's fucking that's appropriate. So that you go to the stage and this it looks like a circus. You're just like, oh, this looks like a fun show. Suddenly they bring out a half-naked interracial couple, a white man and a black woman, and they're selling people fucking baseballs to throw at them, and they want the main characters to throw the baseball, so they can get like kind of stoned with baseballs because they're an interracial couple. That just kind of sets the tone. That just kind of sets the fucking tone for this fucking game. Like, holy shit. So he goes to the tower and he meets Elizabeth. He finds out Elizabeth has a power. She can do something called creating tears. They're effectively tears in reality, such that she can kind of teleport between realities, between a multiverse, infinite multiverse, so she can go wherever the fuck she wants, whenever she wants. She can travel in time. There was one moment where she opened a portal that was in Paris in 1985, when the year was like 1940 for them. So like they were like, it's incredible, right? He takes Elizabeth, and lies to her. She says, I want to go to Paris. He's just like, I'll take you to Paris. But in his mind, he's thinking, no, I need to bring the girl back. And you bring us the girl and wipe away debt. So he lies to her. They go through shenanigans in the escape. She realizes he lied to her, and is pissed. She runs away. They go through more shenanigans, and then they find each other again. Suddenly they start need to find a way off the island, off this floating city. So they want to go get Lady Comstock, who is Father Comstock's late wife, her airship, which is stolen by a fucking kind of domestic terrorist named Daisy Fitzroy. Which is she's basically of the camp. She's basically, because like all the black folks and all the non-straight folks, pretty much everybody that's not straight and white, are second-class citizens in this world, and she's leading like a violent, a really violent group of people to fight it. They want to overthrow this shit, and he works out a deal with her such that if he brings them guns, that she'll give them the shit back. So fast forward to later in the game, they do all of this stuff. They fuck with reality a lot. They go through tears a lot. They start to make tears the reality, and it really fucks with the reality a lot. For instance, like there's one reality they go into where Booker DeWitt ended up being the leader of that Vox Populi, that turbulent group. And then he died he was killed in action. So he's seen as like a martyr in that reality. It's really crazy. Fast forward all the way to the end. There's a lot, man. I need to play this game on stream. This game fucking rocks. We find out, spoiler alert, if you plan on playing this game, mute me right now because I'm about to spoil pretty much the entire end of the game. The reason why Booker DeWitt's redemption is so profound, he spends the entire game kind of confronted with the mistakes of his past, including when he had to fight in that war. There was a war that he fought in where he effectively helped exterminate a group of Native Americans. Like he did some really fucked up shit in his fucking life, and it's so fucked up that he like drank himself into a stupor trying to forget it all, and he's confronted with it over and over again throughout the entire game. We find out at the end this is his reality, but Father Comstock is Booker DeWitt. He is Booker DeWitt from a different reality. We find out that Booker had a daughter. He had a baby daughter, and the baby daughter was taken from him because those twins, you remember those twins? They're not twins. They're the same person. They are a person that is a scientist that figured out interdimensional travel. And Father Comstock in his dimension, he couldn't have kids with Lady Comstock. So he fucking made those twins. He made that scientist go to a different dimension and steal another version of Booker DeWitt's kid. And we find out that kid that was stolen is Elizabeth. Elizabeth is his daughter, grown up. And we find out that Father Comstock is Booker DeWitt if he found Jesus. There was a time early on in his life where after he did all those atrocities, those war atrocities, he could have, he had the option to get saved, to go get baptized and find Jesus. And he chose not to do it, and that's why he's the Booker DeWitt we're playing. If he did decide to do that, then he would turn into Father Comstock and and make this fucking racist ass floating city. This floating city of racist ass fucking motherfuckers. So we find out the only way to save, and because of this racist ass city, and because of Elizabeth, like basically something happens that turns Elizabeth evil. And in the future, 50 years in the future, Elizabeth causes kind of the end of the world. So now the game shifts to how do we prevent the end of the world from happening? And the only way to do it is for him to die. He has to choose to die. He has to choose to not become Father Comstock. We find out there's a multiverse of multiverses, so there's infinite Father Comstocks, Father Comstocks, and he has to stop every incarnation of Father Comstock from happening. So he kills himself. When that saving happens, he gets drowned. He drowns himself. And that's his redemption. That's like a very Spark Notes version of the story, but holy shit, is that not a fucking redemption story for the ages? Like, holy shit. All right, spoiler off. We're not talking about spoilers anymore. Booker DeWitt. Great redemption story. Next one. Namond, The Wire. So if y'all have never seen The Wire, you should watch that show. The show rocks. Namond is a character from the 4th season. Ooh, Edelgard? Okay. Let me fucking keep that in mind. I only base this list off of the things I've seen. But Fire Emblem, let me fucking check out Fire Emblem. Let's go. Hell yes. I love me a good redemption story. It makes me cry. So Namond, so The Wire is set in Baltimore. That's a show that's set in Baltimore, where drug dealing is rampant. Let me take a sip of my smoothie. That's my dinner, so I need to like actually drink that. So Baltimore is riddled with drug dealing, empires and crooked cops and crooked politicians and failing school systems and corrupt newspapers. Like that's like each season has its own focus. And season 4 focused on the school system. So we follow a group of kids. One kid his nickname is Dookie because he smells bad because his family does it. His family neglects him. So he has to come to school stinking every day because they don't bathe him. They don't give him any new clothes. There's another kid that wants to be a thug. He wants to fucking join these fucking drug organizations because like he wants to make money. There's a bunch of different stories. Namond here is probably the most profound story. I think he's the one that sticks in my head from that whole fucking show. So his father was a character that went to prison early on in the series, named Weebay. Weebay took the fall for several murders, and he got life in prison because of it. And as a result, the drug organization agreed to pay for Namond and his mom. He basically agreed to take care of them for life, right? Because he didn't snitch. So sadly, Namond is very gifted. He's very gifted at school. He wants to do well. He gets good grades. He wants to go to college. He actually really wants to do well. He doesn't want anything to do with drugs. But his mom has grown accustomed to a standard of living she's kind of bougie because of the drug money, and she wants him to get into it too so that her money can keep coming. It's really fucked up. So he's forced into he's forced into kind of dabbling in this drug shit. And we find out in this series, man, that's just a death sentence. It's either a life in prison sentence or it's a death sentence. Literally every character that is involved in that shit either fucking gets murdered or gets sent to prison for life. And he doesn't want that future for himself. Thankfully, he had somebody looking out for him. There was a police chief, I think he was a police chief, that took notice of him, saw his relationship with his mom, saw that his mom was forcing him into doing this shit. Funny enough, Weebay, the guy that was in prison, didn't want him to do this shit. He didn't want him to fucking get put in prison for the rest of his life. So eventually, glossing over all of the events in the season, he eventually is taken out of custody of his mom, thankfully, and put in custody of that police chief. So that police chief sends him away to a good school so that he can have a good future. So the reason why this redemption story, Naaman really didn't do anything wrong, but it's his redemption is that he got out of a situation. Like he's in a situation that so many little boys get put in, where they think their only option is to deal drugs and stuff and to join that life, right? And he got out of it because he had someone looking out for him. So that's why I really love his story specifically. And it honestly stuck with me. I don't even remember a lot of the stories in that fucking show, but Naaman, I remember his story very well. All right, next one. Next one. Bucky Barnes, y'all. Did you really think that we weren't gonna have any MCU up in here? Did y'all think we weren't gonna have any Marvel shits in here? Of course we had to have Marvel shits in here. Bucky motherfucking Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier. Y'all know about Bucky. He was Captain America's sexy friend in the 40s. Back in the 40s when Steve Rogers was a skinny little boy. And Bucky was the tall one. He was the sexy one. He got the ladies. Like he was able to join the military. You feel me? Like he got to, he was always the alpha of their dynamic. He's sexy as fuck. Sebastian Stan, y'all. Ha! He's so fine. Whew! So Bucky, the whole Captain America movie happens. Steve Rogers becomes Captain America. Bucky feels a little bit insecure because suddenly Steve Rogers is super sexy. Is it debatable? I think it's maybe debatable whether Chris Evans is sexier than Sebastian Stan. I think they're both very sexy in very different sexy ways. But Bucky got a little bit in his feelings, like when Steve was kind of like the hot shit in town. Steve gets frozen. The whole movie happens. Steve is frozen. They think he's dead. After Steve gets frozen, actually, before that actually even happened, they went on a mission. Bucky presumably dies. Bucky gets jettisoned off of a moving train, and he presumably is dead. We find out that in the future, not only is he not dead, he got captured. He got captured and experimented on. Basically the super soldier serum that they injected in Steve Rogers to make him a super soldier, the Russians were doing the same type of shit. And they were largely unsuccessful. Bucky Barnes is the first successful one that they got. Not only did they inject him with the super soldier serum, they brainwashed the shit out of him, such that he's just a weapon on command. On command, you say, "Go kill that guy." Yes, sir. And it's honestly, it's all they had to do is do a sequence of words to indoctrinate him, and all of a sudden, you feel me? I'm in jail. Oh man, why you put me in jail? I don't even know if I can go to jail in this view. Let's see if I can. Let's see if I can. Where's my prison? I did not set up jail for this. Damn it. Let me do it. Media source. Existing, I think. I got jail. Gozi's in jail for 5 minutes. Wait. Let me make my prison a little bigger. Okay. There we go. I got somebody horny jail. I guess I was being a little horny with Sebastian Stan. Fair enough. Oh shit. There we go. But yeah, no. He becomes this killing machine, and he has no control. He has no control over himself. And he doesn't really get broken out of it until the Winter Soldier happens, when Steve snaps him out of it. He snaps him out of it and brings him back to being Bucky. Sadly, he didn't forget any of the fucked up things he did. So he's tormented to his core by all of the lives he took. And his redemption story really starts to come to play. If you guys watched Falcon versus Winter Soldier, you really see the trauma that he's dealing with. Now that since the Wakandans beat the fucking the brainwashing out of his head, and there's this beautiful scene in Falcon and Winter Soldier, the moment it happens, the moment he's free, he cries and he weeps because he realizes he's free. It was so beautiful. That's true. Yeah, but yep, Bucky never got to make amends with like in Winter Soldier. Sorry, in and the Winter Soldier, Bucky has a small book. He's seeing a therapist, and part of his therapy is to make amends with everyone he's hurt, and that's what's gonna bring him peace. That's what's gonna make the nightmares stop. And you're right, Blood. Tony's one that he's never gonna make amends with. He murdered Tony's parents. He didn't choose to. He didn't choose to. They made him do it. They made him murder Tony Stark's parents, and Tony Stark hated him for that, and that's what actually caused the rift between Tony and Steve. And he never got to make amends for that. And that's like a demon that he has to deal with. Like he's just so raw. The character is one of the rawest ones in the MCU because of the trauma he dealt with and continues to deal with. And it just really rocked. I really, really liked how they did his character, especially in Falcon. That's the reason why Falcon and the Winter Soldier is one of my favorite of the MCU TV shows that they've done, because it was more grounded. Like the WandaVision and What If, those were not grounded shows. They were very much in the cosmos, whereas this one felt more grounded. So, Bruce Banner rocked a baby cradle when he said, I never get to have anything I want. I don't get it. Oh, is it because he can't, he doesn't get to be happy. I don't even think he can have kids. He can't. I think they even said that they can't. Yeah, he wants kids and he can't have them because the gamma radiation fried his nutskis. Sag. They can always adopt. Oh God, I'm so happy we got the Dowd, guys. Oh, I'm so happy we got the Dowd. Okay. Dishonored remains one of my favorite fucking games of all time. It is 100% in my top 5. Dowd is an assassin. And Dowd was contracted by, so there's a city called Dunwall. It's like this fucking this big city, right? And it's got an empress, and sadly there's like a sickness, there's a plague going through the city, and it's making it so that morale's pretty low, man. The city doesn't really trust the empress because they feel like she's letting everybody die with this sickness. So her underlings decide to use this discontent that's brewing in the city to stage a coup. To stage a coup, not a queue, a coup. It's not a line, it's a coup. And they hire this assassin, Dowd, and his league of assassins to murder the empress and pin it on Corvo, which Corvo is the main character that we play in the main Dishonored game. Dowd, being the assassin, he gets some of the best DLC that I've ever played in any fucking game. The DLCs of Dishonored follow Dowd right after that happens. Right after he fucking did that. He's had a lot of jobs. He's an assassin. That's like what he does for a living. He's killed a lot of motherfuckers, you feel me? And so this really shouldn't have affected him that much, but it did. It fucking haunted the shit out of him. He felt, as the moment his blade entered her body, he knew that he signed his death warrant. He knew that someone was going to kill him. He knew that this was wrong. And so his whole story follows learning about Delilah, which Delilah's a witch that actually comes into play in the second game. She's like the main antagonist in the second game. He follows this mystery about Delilah. What the fuck is going on here with Delilah and these Brigmore witches? And the whole DLC is him kind of trying to figure out that mystery, but also trying to redeem himself. Like these witches are evil, and he knows it. And I think like even the witches might have even been somewhat behind what happened to the Empress, because we find out in the second game. Spoiler alert! Pop. Spoiler alert! In the second game, Delilah is the Empress's half sister. So there's like family drama with that. So that all happens. But basically, he solves the mystery of the Brigmore witches and stops their. I don't even remember what the fuck their plot was, but there was a plot that they were doing, and he stopped it. And then he met his fate. He met his fate with Corvo. And in my case, I spared him. There's a part in the main game where you can either kill Dowd or you can spare him. I chose to spare him. And when he gets spared, he just becomes a different person, I suppose. He actually even comes back. If you guys play in the second game, there's a DLC where you play as Billy Lurk, and you're actually trying to find Dowd. I actually didn't even get very far into that DLC. I never finished it, so I'd love to go back to play that. But Dowd's arc is pretty fucking intensely awesome. Like the blood is not wrong here. Like this fucking game rocks. So if you never played Dishonored, play that shit. I ruined Dowd a little bit, but the game I didn't ruin any of it. So go and play that game. Next person. All right, this is the second to last one. Oh, might be the third to last one. Issa from Insecure. So Insecure is an HBO show that just ended. It just ended. That is all about being in your late 20s and early 30s, being black and young in LA, and living with insecurity, you know? And Issa at the beginning of the series is an insecure ass bitch. She's uncertain about everything. She's uncertain about what she wants in her life. She's with a man that she's been with in a long-term relationship, and she loves him, but he's kind of a bum, right? He's not doing what he wants in his life, and as a result, he's not really appreciating her. And as a result, she cheats on him. She's not a bad person. She is not a bad person. That was funny as hell. Oh my God, Blood, when I saw that that shit made me so... God, season 5 was so fucking good. I'm so happy you watched Insecure 2 Blood. Oh my God. But yeah, no, she cheats on him. They break up, and she goes through like 5 seasons, like dealing with relationships. What does she want for her love life? What does she want in her professional life? She hated her job. She hated her fucking job and her fucking microaggression ass fucking coworkers. And she really didn't know what she wanted with her life. And she goes over 5 seasons. She has lots and lots and lots of downs. Like, she has some ups, but she has a lot of downs. She hits rock bottom. She becomes a fucking Lyft driver. Like, she becomes homeless at one point, has to, like, be, like, living with a dude she's fucking just to have a roof over her head. Like, she has a lot of fucking low points, but they all feed into her experience, because every time she got to that point, she thought about it. What the hell am I doing with my life? And eventually, she figures it out. She figures out what she wants to fucking do. You feel me? Like, her coworkers were trash as fuck. Except for that one chick. That one lady was nice, but the rest of her coworkers, including her boss, they were trash. And we end the series with her. The point of this show, it's all about insecurity. She's not the only character. There's other characters with insecurities, with their careers and their love life, and what they want out of each other, without what they want out of their friends, what they want out of their families. Like, it's really kind of incredible. And you would think at first that, like, the arc of this show was for her to conquer her insecurities. That is not the arc of this show. The arc of this show was for her to accept her insecurities, to not be blocked in life by her insecurities. And they achieved that in such an eloquent way. Like, this finale, I was crying, honey. Like, it was so good. It was so good. And Issa had a very good arc from the beginning all the way to the end, sticking with her. You root for her. You admonish her. You're just like, girl, what the fuck are you doing? Excuse me. You cry with her. You laugh with her. Like, this is a very compelling character, and she really does a good job to drive this show. This is her show. Insecure is her show. So, yeah. Next one. Takemichi! Okay, so Tokyo Revengers. I talk about this show a lot. I love this show so much. That was funny as hell. No, when they got robbed in Insecure, go back to Issa. When they got fucking robbed by that bitch, that was in the first episode. That was funny as fuck. Oh my, I was so cute too, because they were still weird. Molly and Issa had like such a weird relationship where they're just like, are we even still friends? And that fuckery ass moment is what brought them back together, and I thought that was so sweet. All right. Tokyo Revengers is about a guy named Takemichi, actually, but they purposely mispronounce his name as Takemichi. And he's at the you meet this person when he's 26 or 27 years old in like 2014. He's kind of a fucking loser. Like, he works at a fucking video rental store in 2015. No, I think it was 2017. Like, how the fuck is you? Oh, okay, there we go. I'm put the spoiler on. So how the fuck is you about to be working at a video rental store in 2017? It don't get much lower than that, dude. We're in the fucking the world of Netflix and streaming services, and you working at a movie store. That kind of really sets the tone there. So he's kind of a loser, right? He doesn't have really any friends. His apartment's trashed. Like, his apartment's nasty. It's tiny and it's gross, and he's got beer cans and trash everywhere. He's kind of disillusioned with life. He really doesn't give a shit. And what happens in the first episode is he gets pushed into a subway and almost dies. He almost dies. Or he presumably dies, quote. He blacks out and he wakes up 12 years earlier when he was in like middle school. And he was like, I think he was 25, so he was like 13 in middle school. And this is what he looks like in middle school. He's got like blonde hair, and everybody's got like 50s hairstyles for some reason in Japan in 2006. I don't know why, but they do. And this is a time where I guess all of the youth in Tokyo wanted to be delinquents. Like everybody just wanted to be a gang member at 12 and 13 and 10 and as like young children. That's got to be like the one thing you got to get over pretty quickly in this show, is that like they're like kicking the absolute living dog shit out of each other within inches of their life, but they're like in grade school. They're like 12 and 13. It's like it's you have to really suspend your disbelief, because it's just like, what? Like but so Takemichi, oh, before that happens, by the way, before he gets hit by that train, he finds out that his childhood girlfriend was murdered. I think her name was Hina, and she was murdered by gang members. And he's kind of devastated about it, but he doesn't know why he's devastated, because he's just like, I haven't spoken to her in 12 years. Why am I devastated? But he is. He cries. He was like, what the fuck? He goes back in time. He's confused for a while, but then he realizes he's the age he was when he was with Hina. So he goes to see her. He's just, and it's to his disbelief, his astonishment, she's alive and she's well. He hugs her. He's like, oh my God, you're alive. And he fucking basically realizes he went back in time. It's an isekai. I know, it's an isekai. It becomes his mission in life to save her fucking life, however he possibly can. He knows that what killed her were gang members, so he says, I need to become a gang member so I can take over this gang and make sure that they're not evil, so that they don't kill this woman. So that's his mission, and he sticks with that mission so fucking vehemently, so fervently. Like every single time he would go back and forth between the present day and the past, he would change something in the past, go back to present day. He finds out Hina's still dead. He's just like, okay, what are we gonna do now? And it becomes like a whole mystery he has to solve. What the fuck happened in the past that corrupted this gang so much that they're going around murdering people? And then it becomes more wholesome because he joins the gang, and then he becomes like a trusted member of the gang. He meets Mikey, and he meets Draken and Smiley and fucking I forgot that Baji. He meets Baji and all these characters. And they're all rough around the edges at first, but then they become like really good friends. They trust each other. And Takemichi, like, because his thing is he's weak as shit. He's weak as a motherfucker. He can't fight. All he can do is get the absolute living shit kicked out of him. But he'll do it. And he'll stand there, like they'll be kicking the shit out of him saying, I win. He's just like, no, you didn't win because I'm still standing. He'll be bloodied almost to death, but he'll get the fuck back up. And that fucking gumption is what like inspires the people of the gang to like take him in. He's just like, this guy is captain material. So he rises through the ranks. And his whole, and it's funny because they don't know. He has to keep it a secret that he's from the future, but every decision he's making is to save, and it becomes not even just saving Hina's life. He starts to really care about these guys, these gang members, and when he gets to the future, he finds out a lot of them are like, their lives are fucked up. Like his best friend, he finds out, was the one that murdered Hina because the person that's at the head of the game like scared him so much that he had to. He finds out that like one of them is on death row for murdering some. Like everybody's lives are super fucked up. So now it becomes his mission to save everybody. His whole thing is to save everybody, and it's so wholesome. I cried so much. When the show ended, I read the manga. I'm caught up to the manga. I'm caught up to this day to the manga because I could not put it down. It is so moving and so compelling how passionate he is about just saving his friends' lives. And it's oh God, Takemichi is, and he comes back to the future. He has purpose now. The idea is that at the beginning of the series, when we meet him, he had no purpose in life. He was just letting life pass him by. Now he's living life with conviction. You know, he's living life with friends. He cares about people. He loves these people, and he wants them to be happy. And he won't stop until they are. You know, so Takemichi rocks. Last one. Okay, Warden Solas, guys. Mass Effect. This is one hell of a redemption arc, man. If I can pick any character, and there's a lot of characters in Mass Effect that I love, but the first one that always comes to mind past Shepard is, and past Garrus, is always Mordin. Warden Solas is a Solarian. In the world of Mass Effect, Solarians are a race of like salamander type creatures that are smart. They're all skinny and frail. They can't really fight hand to hand, but they're excellent at what's it called? Oh shit. Yeah, I'm done with that. No more spoilers now. He's excellent. Solarians are excellent at recon, and they're usually very, 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 very smart. So a lot of them become scientists and doctors. So there's another race called the Krogan, and the Krogan are kind of the opposite. They're huge hulking creatures that live for like 1,000 years, and they are not very smart. They're very strong, and they're really just good for being like mercenaries and stuff. So the Krogan, when interstellar travel was first introduced to their planet, they were fucking like crazy. They had a lot of babies. They had a lot of fucking babies to the point, and they grow up quickly. The babies grow up very fast so they can start fighting. So they could pretty much make an army of Krogan in like, what, 20 years? And they have interstellar travel now, so they could fucking conquer the galaxy if they tried. The Solarians foresaw this. The Solarians and also the fucking, oh, Jesus Christ. The Turians. Which is another race of it's like a militaristic actually militaristic people. So the Turians and the Solarians work together. They were in a war. There was a war called the Krogan. I think it's called the Krogan Wars, where there was just an all-out bloodbath war between the Turians and the Krogans. Meanwhile, the Solarians are working with the Turians to come up with a pathogen that could infect every Krogan that will effectively sterilize them. It'll make it so that only 1 in 1,000 babies will be born. And slowing them down like this would keep them from making armies overnight. When they did, sadly, the Krogan homeworld used to be thriving. It used to be beautiful, had greenery. You know, it had waterfalls, and it was just this beautiful world. And not everybody wanted to take over the galaxy. Only a little select few wanted to. But the Solarians made this call to sterilize an entire race of people. And as you can imagine, it made a little bit of bad blood between the Krogans and the Solarians. We find out that Mordin was directly on that team, the team that synthesized this pathogen and made the choice to disperse it. And he's almost like him, and the people that were on that team are pretty much responsible for sterilizing an entire race of people. And everything that happened after that, they're responsible for that. What happened is that the homeworld Tachanka became barren. The Krogan mined and raised the world for all of its materials and sold it all. Most of them even left the home world and became mercenaries because there was nothing for them there. It made them fractured. It made it so they had no more structure, really. All they were just a bunch of warlords and clans. Like, they pretty much put them back into the fucking Stone Age. And Mordin feels, at the beginning when we first meet him, you can tell that he feels a type of way about it, but he's lying to himself, telling him, we had to do this. This was the right call. This was the fate of the galaxy, and we had to make a choice, and this is the right call. He's telling himself that, but you can tell that he is at fucking that is a very conflicted take that he has. Eventually, we find out he eventually acknowledges in Mass Effect 2 that it might have been a mistake. You know, he doesn't think that it's right to cure them, at least not. Because what's happening is there's like a side mission in Mass Effect 2 where one of his old comrades that also helped make that pathogen decides to try to cure it. And the way that he's trying to do it is that he's using really barbaric medical tactics to do it. It's causing a lot of deaths, but these Krogan that are dying are volunteering because all they want is to fucking end the genophage. They want to end this pathogen and save their people. So they're willingly volunteering for this, right? They feel that they see it as like a duty to their people. They stop that guy from his cruel experiments, but you get the choice in the game to save his data that he got, because that data will actually make it so that you can synthesize a cure faster. I think in the second game, something about that data is important. I think either way you do synthesize the cure, but I think if you save the data, you're in a better favor with the Krogan in the third game. So the idea is that by the third game, by the end of the second game, Morden acknowledges it was a fucking mistake. They shouldn't have done it, and he regrets it. In the second game, he is all for curing it. He says, you know what, we need to fix this. We need to fucking cure the genophage. And he eventually gives his spoiler alert, gives his life in order to disperse the genophage. He dies regardless. There's no way to save him. You cannot save him. Either you're the one that shoots him or he goes up and dies himself. But he is going to die before this genophage is not out. And he gets it out and he cures the genophage. It's the last thing he does. And it's just one hell of a redemption arc, man. It's one hell of a closing to his story. All right. Now, the worst redemption arcs of all time. Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. Okay, so Barney Stinson, How I Met Your Mother is a show that is basically this main character named Ted. He's telling his kids in the future how he met their mother. It's pretty simple. There's actually even a fucking spinoff that's like about to premiere like tonight or something called How I Met Your Father that I should watch. I hope it's as good. But basically, Barney Stinson is Ted's friend who's a womanizer. He's like the womanizer of the show, and he's kind of disgusting about it. Like, he's got something called The Playbook, which is a book full of a whole bunch of different ways he cons women into fucking him. It's really fucked up. He's a really gross character. Later in the series, he falls in love with one of the other characters in the show named Robin. They fall in love with each other, but he can't let go of his fucking disgustingness. Like, he's a really gross character. If this show was made, I'm actually really wondering how they do How I Met Your Father, because this show came out in 2005 and it ended in like 2014, and that's about the time span where this kind of show would have flew. In this woke era that we're in, this show would not fly. This show would not fly with the shit that this motherfucker did. He would just straight up lie to women to get them to fuck him. Like, it was really disgusting. So he goes through this whole transformation where he's like destroying this playbook. He's trying to like prove that he's a better person. And he kind of cons, like he it's really fucked up actually. Like they're trying to like play it off like it's a cute thing because he's declaring his love for Robin and proposes to her. But he actually ends up spending most of that season manipulating her into thinking he moved on while she was clearly in love with him and wasn't ready to move on. He like lied to her and manipulated her the whole season, making her think that he fell in love with someone else and how he was gonna propose to someone else. And she, like, knowing that she was like fucking agonizing over it, crying under her desk and getting drunk and all that stuff, only at the end of the season to reveal that it was his quote unquote final play to I guess express his love for her. And I guess at the time you're thinking, oh, that's cute, but then when you really think about it, it's really gross. And then the last season is set around their wedding. They get married, and then at the end of the season, we find out they got divorced. Like, they didn't even last because he still didn't change. And he went back to being I guess he got redeemed a little bit because one of the women he fucked got pregnant and he got a daughter out of it. And that changed him. Having a daughter changed him. But I'm like, that was like the last episode of the show. Like, I don't know. Barney Stinson, I love this show, but it was not a good arc for him. Cool. All right. Isaac Clarke, Dead Space. So, Dead Space is a horror game where it's like this, like, the humans, dumbass humans, went and mined a moon, and the moon had, like, a pathogen in it that fucking infected humans and made them into monsters. And then humans weirdly thought, oh man, let's worship it, and made a fucking religion out of it. Isaac Clarke got direct contact with this pathogen, but did not become, like, it fucked him up in the head, but he didn't become like a mindless worshiper of it. Instead, he's like kind of like an interpreter almost of it. He had a really cool arc at the beginning of the series where he was just like the one person that could like, kind of like sever that connection and save the human race. But by the third game, they reduced him to being in a love triangle with like a chick that he met in the second game and some other dude. And it ended up becoming like, I don't know, they just really cheapened his character. And God. they just really soured his character. He started off really, really, really fucking strong. And the second game is like seriously the best of the 3 games, and the first game is still really good, but the third game like really sours his character and just makes him into like kind of a moody ass, depressing bitch. Like it's unfortunate. All right, Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones. This motherfucker. Okay, putting aside the incest that he fucks his sister and has kids with his sister. Putting that aside, let me take a sip of my smoothie. Jaime does some really fucked up shit in this fucking show. He pushes a child out of a window. He fucking tries to kill his brother. I don't think he tried to kill his brother. Yeah. He like hunted down his brother, but then got captured or something. He gets a lot of fucked up shit happening to him too. Like he got his hand chopped off, which is kind of rad, and became like kind of a slave for a while. He is just so in love with his sister. Like we really thought he kind of falls in love with Brienne of Tarth a little bit. But at the end of the fucking series, he went and chose his sister anyway. He really could have fucking kept the redemption, became a good person, settled down with Brienne and someone who's not your sister. Like, he could go fuck someone that's not his sister. And he ended up just saying fuck off to that and went back to his sister anyway. And then he dies immediately as soon as he gets there. It was just so stupid. And part of it is the writing of the last season being so rushed and bad. But oh God. Oh, it was so unfortunate. Oh my God. I bring biddies for Gozi titty. Oh, thank you. Oh, my titties welcome. Oh, they're gonna send me back to jail. Shit. They're gonna send me back to jail for that. Okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you for those bits. Thank you for them cheers. Thank you. We're talking about redemption stories. And we went through all of the best ones. Now we're on the worst ones, and Jaime Lannister is up there. Cool. Next one. Bill Compton from True Blood. Honey, I started rewatching True Blood. Bill Compton is something else. So it's supposed to be kind of Twilight-esque, where like they're vampires, but they're out of the coffin. It's the parallels with the LGBTQ rights movement is. It actually was really well done towards the beginning, but it becomes so on the nose later that I'm like, okay, man, you guys could have done this better, but okay. I really love what you guys are doing, but like you guys are being really sloppy about it. And like there was like they made some like parallels with the civil rights movement that rubbed me the wrong way. Like some of the comments they made. I actually just saw this fucking episode. They said that like fucking. Oh, why? What the fuck they said? They said we can't have a civil rights. Like they had like a rally that had but none of the vampires were there. There was like an inclusiveness rally, but there were like 3 vampires there. And then Bill was just like, where are all the vampires? How can you have a civil rights movement? Imagine if they had a civil rights movement without any black people. And then they said some like fucking sideways ass comment saying, oh, maybe they wouldn't have gotten so violent if the black people weren't there. Some shit like they said some shit that rubbed me the wrong way, and I was like, okay, I don't like that. Lafayette and Tara. Blood. Tara got the worst treatment on that fucking show, all the way down to her last fucking moment. They fucking really did Tara wrong. They should have done right by Tara. And Lafayette Rock, they kind of fucked him too. Pretty much all the fucking brown people in the last fucking season, they took all their lines away. You know, Lafayette didn't have a single fucking line in the finale. He didn't say a fucking single word in the whole finale. I was like, what the actual fuck? And that's a good fucking segue into Bill. So Bill comes off initially as being so in love with Sookie, right? He's a vampire. He's in love with this human girl. And in the first 2 seasons, we're like thinking we're thinking that's true. Like we're thinking like, you know, Vampire Bill really loves Sookie, but we find out in season 3, Vampire Bill went to Bon Temps because the queen instructed him to find Sookie, because Sookie, the queen knew that there was something special about Sookie, and the queen's like, bring me that girl. That's why he was sent there. He lied to Sookie. Talking about, oh, I'm here because this is my ancestral ground and I just fell in love with you by chance. No, in fact, the way he even like actually got Sookie to drink his blood in the first place which was probably what made Suki fall in love with him. He manipulated two redneck motherfuckers to attack Suki. Well, actually, no, he manipulated them to attack him so that Suki would save him. And then that's how he forced them to, like, kind of meet each other, right? And he pretty much manipulated Suki into falling in love with him. And I'm like, what? And pretty much from that moment on, Bill was written off for me. To put aside the fact that he became king, Suki went into that fairy world for a year. Eric, who wasn't even, he, like, loved Suki, for real. Like, Eric actually fell in love with Suki, like, naturally. He saw her. He's just like, oh, I love her now. Whereas Bill, it was like manipulating her into falling in love with. So when Suki went away for that year, so I should be putting spoilers on. When Suki went away for a year, Eric actually really did believe that Suki was going to come back one day. Bill didn't and was fucking half of the town. You saw him he was fucking hella bitches. Like, while she was gone. And Eric wasn't. Eric was like, nope, Suki's coming back. Like, he was unloyal. He became a fucking tyrant because he became the king of Louisiana. He's a tyrant. Oh, absolutely. I get that from his face, blood. That sentence you just said is his face, literally his face. Like, holy shit. Bruh. Don't even like pass aside the whole stupid ass arc where, like, Bill becomes, like, a super vampire named Billith. Like, that was so stupid. And here's the worst part. Here's the worst of it. I wouldn't have been too mad if, like, they would have just kept Bill evil. If they would have just, you know what, Bill is an evil character. Leave him evil. Let him die evil. They spent the last season trying to redeem him and putting that on Suki. Like, saying, oh, you got to redeem me. I have to redeem myself for all of the bad things I've done. Don't do that. You're not good. You're not a good person, Bill. Don't even try to do that. You're bad and stay bad. Like, oh, God, Bill Compton is the worst. He's the worst. Okay, no more spoilers. Okay. Olivia Pope. Okay, hear me out. I love this show. And I love Olivia Pope. I love this character so fucking much. I watch the fuck out of this show. I loved this fucking show. But Olivia, I don't know, man. She did some shit in this show that by the last couple episodes, we're just supposed to forget about it. Like, the first few seasons were fine and all, but let's not forget, she fucked the married man. She fucked the shit out of that married man. She ain't had to do that. I'll put that aside. You can say that they did that in the name of love. I will say, I can put that aside. She fucked him out of the name of love. They were in love. But then you see later in the series, they even, like, get Melly to get out of the White House. And then Olivia moves into the White House. Then she kind of falls out of love with him. Oops, sorry. Spoiler alert. She kind of fell out of love with him. I'm like, bitch, you blew up that man's marriage for what? You don't even want to be the first lady. You want to be the president. Like, you don't even want to be the first lady. She blew up that man's marriage. Put that aside too. Fine. Then at one point, like, you know, there's this whole spy organization called B613 that her daddy is, like, the head of. And then suddenly she becomes the head of B613 and starts doing some grimy shit. She even murdered a motherfucker. You remember that? She killed the vice president. She murdered a motherfucker in cold blood. And she got away with it. There were no consequences. None. She did so much fucking ugly ass shit toward the end of the show. And all of a sudden, she looks in the mirror. She's just like, oh no, I'm the bad guy now. I'm going to become the good guy again. And then all of a sudden, the last couple episodes, suddenly she's back to the other Olivia Pope. I'm like, no, bitch, you did too much. You did too much. You're not good anymore. I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. I was like, when I saw the finale of that show, the finale of that show came out like 6 years ago. Girl, I had a big old glass of wine and popcorn because, you know, and I had the same glasses as her. I bought those glasses. You know, those big ass fucking wine glasses Olivia had. I had those. I had my red wine and I watched that finale. By the end of that finale, I was ugly crying. I was living with my parents at the time, and I was sitting here like, it was so good. I was like ugly crying, and my mom came upstairs, and she's like, "What the fuck is happening?" She just like, Olivia, she was the president. She's in the president hall. Like, I was like, oh Lord, that show is so good. In my criticism, guys, don't take it as a sign of me saying I hate this show because I fucking love this show. But Olivia Pope's redemption arc was kind of garbage. She was not really redeemed in my eyes. She did too much bad shit. But you should watch this fucking show. It's actually going to be the next show I watch after I'm done with True Blood. Mia fucking Winters in the Resident Evil series. This bitch. Okay, so Mia Winters is the wife of Ethan Winters, who is the main character of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil Village. So she disappears without a trace, not telling her husband where she was going. She actually lied to him. She said that she was going somewhere. I don't even think because he didn't know what she did for a living. She didn't know, Ethan did not know what his wife did for a living. She lied to him. She disappears and she's gone for 2 years, and this poor man is just sitting here like, fucking, where the fuck is my wife? Like, I don't know what happened. I just want answers. He's fucking tormented. She gets caught up. I know you could blame this shit on that the fucking pathogen that was inside of her, but she put herself in that situation to begin with, working for the fucking Umbrella Corporation. She sent him an email telling him to come out and find her. She says, I'm here in Louisiana, come find me. I know that wasn't really her, but the fact that she put herself in this situation to begin with, inherently put her husband in danger, so I blame her for this. Ethan comes out there, and now he's infected with the shit, and like is trapped there and is tormented by this family. The first thing he sees when he gets out there, he finds Mia, and he's like, oh my God, Mia, what the fuck? Where have you been? Because he hasn't seen her in 2 fucking years, and she's this fucking monster that's trying to kill him, cuts his damn hand off, shit, like stabs the motherfucker, like does all this shit to him, torments him, like fucks with his brain, and then at the end of the game, we're supposed to just like fucking forgive this bitch? We supposed to forgive this bitch? We're supposed to give her the cure and forgive her? Like, what? What the fuck? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, Chris Redfield is definitely daddy. Like, oof. Especially the way that they designed him in this game. I like Chris Redfield's design in Resident Evil 5, but I really like it in RE. Ooh, in Resident Evil Village. Like, they did a really good job with this design. But yeah, Mia Winters, she comes back in the second game, which technically we don't see the real Mia Winters until, like, the end of the game. But, I mean, I just we're just supposed to, like, as the character, as the player, we're supposed to forgive her because it was, like, under the influence of that shit. But it turns out she worked for, like, the Umbrella Corporation. She was in charge of, like, fucking transporting that little girl that was infected with that pathogen. Like, she worked for that fucking evil-ass corporation and put herself in that situation and put her husband at risk. She's on my shit list forever. Dexter! Okay, now we're really in spoiler alert because this episode just came out last week. So if y'all have not seen the end of the recent Dexter New Blood, mute my ass right now because mute me, honey, because she's going to be ruining some stuff. I'm not even actually going to talk about Dexter from the original series because the original series, he really didn't have much of a redemption arc. This new series was supposed to be his redemption, right? It was supposed to be as a do-over from the original ending, because the original series ending was ass. It was real bad. Basically, we open, and Dexter's living in this city, this town in upstate New York, and it's set 10 years after the original series, where everybody in Miami thinks he's dead. They think he died in that hurricane. And he sent Harrison down to live in like Argentina or something. He has quelled his dark passenger for a long time. He has not murdered for a long time, which is great. That's actually a great start when it comes to like redemption for him, because that means he's like doing okay. I'm not saying that he still deserves to not go to jail for murdering hundreds of people, but I mean, you know, it's a fucking start. We find out that there was like a long string of missing women in this area. So he is pretty convinced that there's a murderer in this area because he's a murderer. So he thinks like murderers. And that's like a side mystery, right? He's dating the police chief to the point where she'll like pull him over in the middle of the street and they'll just fuck in their car in the middle of the street. Who does that? Who does that, man? I don't know who does that shit, but they do. And basically, his son, Harrison, is grown up now. He's like a teenager now, and he finds him. Harrison finds him. And Harrison also has dark tendencies. He feels like he wants to hurt people too. Dexter's sitting here thinking, "Oh my God, he's like me." By the way, Dexter has murdered again. Like early on in this season, there was like a guy that was like an asshole, and Dexter finds out that that guy was the reason why somebody that guy caused the deaths of other people. So now Dexter's like, "Dark passenger, I need to kill someone." So Dexter murders that guy. Turns out the guy he murdered is the son of like the richest guy in town, and then we find out that the richest guy in town happens to be the serial killer killing all those women. So that's a side thing that's happening. And then Harrison is having dark tendencies. So now Dexter's like, "Oh man, I need to fucking teach my son how to kill now." So he, fast forward later in the series, in the season, Dexter eventually reveals he's a killer. And he reveals like the lessons that his dad taught him about, killing for the right reasons and all that stuff. Harrison ends up not actually being a fucking psycho like that. Like Harrison, the reason why he has dark thoughts is because his dad fucked him up because he witnessed his mother being murdered in the end of season 4 in the original series, and his dad abandoned the fuck out of him, so he's just fucking traumatized, it turns out. And the reason why Dexter's redemption arc is bad here is because they're trying to redeem him in terms of him being a better father. And he actually does exhibit some of these things until he reveals that he's a killer. Once that happens, once he's trying to fucking turn Harrison into a killer too, when he just totally misread the situation with Harrison. Harrison just needs a fucking father. He's traumatized. That's the reason why he's fucking having those dark thoughts. And if you just be a father to him, he won't do it anymore. But Dexter's thinking, "Ooh, I got a killing buddy now." And it ends up culminating in Dexter's death. This is spoiler alert, guys. Come on. Like, seriously, mute me if you have not seen this. At the very last episode, Harrison shoots Dexter because Dexter goes on a tirade. Basically, Dexter gets caught. Like, his girlfriend, the sheriff, ends up finding who he is. Like, he's under a different name here in this new town. And his girlfriend actually finds out that he is Dexter Morgan, and she actually pieces together that he is the Bay Harbor killer, the Bay Harbor butcher, and threatens to bring him in, threatens to extradite him down to Florida so that he can fucking get like fucking the death penalty for that shit. And Dexter then goes into panic mode, and any lesson he might have fucking learned in this show goes out the window because now he's in panic mode. He's killing motherfuckers that don't deserve to be killed. He's just trying to save himself. And this is why I don't like his redemption arc, because it's not much of a redemption arc. He has not learned a fucking thing. He didn't learn a fucking thing. All we got out of this show is Harrison now knows that his dad is a killer, and his dad's dead now. That's it. That's it. That's all the show did. That's all it did. We got nothing else. We still didn't get justice for the Bay Harbor Butcher because Dexter's fucking dead. So, like, the show kind of didn't fucking matter. So it's just like, that's why this sucks. All right. Next one. Chuck Bass, Gossip Girl. All right. This is an old enough show that I don't need to put the spoiler thing on. Chuck Bass. So Gossip Girl is a show from the early 2000s. That's about a bunch of rich white kids that live in the Upper East Side in Manhattan. That's it. It's all of the fucking shit that they get away with for being rich and white. There's like no black people in the show. There's like no black people in this fucking show. I'll give there's like a new Gossip Girl that just started last year. I'll give them credit. That show is a lot more diverse. Like there's like the main characters are black. Like it's a lot more diverse, and they did that on purpose. But this old show, it was not very diverse, honey. Not even sexually diverse. It had like one token gay character, and they kind of made him the token gay. Like, you know how the token black guy, there's always a token black guy, right? They made him like the token gay guy. I was like, oh my God, this is so offensive. And there are better, I will tell you, like, they really are better about, like, have you seen the new Gossip Girl? Because I really fucking love it. I really fucking love the new Gossip Girl. They are so much better about this. But I was like, bitch, like, this is bullshit. Like, they got so much wrong. This is another show that I don't think would fly. Like, it's funny that they were, like, revamping it to this, they were kind of re-releasing it and making it woke, because if they fucking release this as is, for one, let's talk about Chuck. In the first few episodes, he fucking sexually assaults, like, 3 women. he sexually assaults like 3 women. By the end of the series, he's supposed to be seen as this sweet, lovelorn guy that's just in love with Blair Waldorf, and like he's so helplessly in love with her, and he's a good person. He's not. He's a predator. He's a sexual predator. He assaults women, and we're supposed to just forget that. We're just supposed to forget that that happens. Exactly. He starts spreading rumors. He's kind of evil, and like they try to like justify it that, oh, his dad is an asshole, his uncle is an asshole, so of course he's an asshole. And I'm like, no, bitch, no. This is actually this character actually got the Michael Scott treatment. So the Michael Scott treatment, y'all remember y'all know The Office. The first season of The Office was kind of with poor reception because of how people didn't like Michael Scott. They didn't like Steve Carell's character because he's supposed to be really cringy. And that kind of plays for British audiences, but it did not play in the States. So they ended up rewriting him and making him more likable. They did the same thing to Chuck Bass because they went too far left. They went too far left with making him a fucking sexual predator, and they had to kind of rewrite him out of that hole. I loved the character toward the end. It was successful, I would say. My teenage self loved the character toward the end. I'm rewatching the show. I'm wondering if my adult self is going to stay the same. In my adult eyes, I don't think it's redeemable. I don't think that you can redeem him the way that they tried to, knowing where he started out. I don't think you can. So, yeah. Seriously, like, dude, blood. This face, look at this face. Look at this face that you see right here. This face is one sentence. Do you know who my father is? That is what this face is. That is what this face is. Do you know who my father is? Like that. Oh God. Okay. Chuck Bass. Anywho, Gossip Girl rocks. You should watch the show. My dad owns a dealership. I want to own a dealership. I wonder if that's good money. Okay. Now we're in book mode. So this is from a book called The Children of Blood and Bone. I loved this book, especially the first one. The sequel has had a more mixed reaction. If you ever plan on reading this book, I'm going to give you a quick premise, and then if you plan on reading the book, mute me, because I'm going to spoil the fuck out of it. Not really, I'm really just going to spoil this character Anon. I'm not going to spoil the story too much, but this Anon character will get spoiled, so heads up. Children of Blood and Bone is set in a fictionalized version of Nigeria. Kind of an ancient fictionalized version of Nigeria, such that there is a race of people. I'm totally blanking on their name, but they all have dark skin and they have white hair, and they're effectively shamans. They have magic. Each of them come from different factions. They serve a different god or goddess. So there's a god of death, where that faction can bring people back to life. Like they're meant to shepherd souls into the next world. They have power over death. There's a faction for fire, so they can control fire. They can produce flames out of their body. There's a faction for water, and a faction for air, and a faction for healing, and there's like all these different factions, right? So that's to set the tone on what this people is. This people were kind of exterminated by the humans. The humans were afraid of them. And it's not even that the humans were afraid of them, it's that the kingdom that the humans ran didn't like the idea that these people had power that they didn't have. You feel me? So like they would instill fear in the humans, saying you should fear those people, and they eventually just actually exterminated all of the adults. All of the adults with this power, they killed them all. They murdered them all. So open at the beginning of the book, we have the main character named Zaylee. Zaylee is a child of that, because they murdered all of the adults. Basically how the magic works is that it gets passed down and taught from the adults to the kids. And because the adults were dead, the magic effectively died. So now you're just left with a whole bunch of kids with white hair that it's very easy to spot that they belong to that race, because they look like that, but they don't have any power. So they're just ostracized from society. Something happens where the king's daughter, Amari, has a friend named Binta, who is a member of this race. And Amari oversees, I'm kind of telling you the very first part of the book a little bit. Let me put the spoiler fucking thing on. Amari or kind of peeks in on the throne room and sees her friend Binta, her best friend, who is one of her servants. I guess, I don't know if you call that best friend. She sees her as a best friend. The king forces the girl Binta to touch a scroll. Suddenly, the moment Binta touches that scroll, her magic awakens inside of her, and she starts uncontrollably exhibiting magic. Basically, the king was trying to prove that the scroll could do that. They killed her on the spot. They killed Binta in front of him. They didn't know Amari was watching, but Amari watched her father do that. So what Amari did was she snuck in that night to her father's throne room, stole the scroll, and escaped the palace. She ran into Zaylee. Zaylee was with her brother Zane in the market, just like trying to like make some money and sell some shit. She bumps into Amari because Amari's running away, and Zaylee accidentally touches the scroll, and now her powers awaken, and she actually happens to be of that faction that can control death. And apparently they're like the most rare ones. They're like most of them are dead. Like she's kind of like the last one. Not really, that's not true, but they're very rare. And they're kind of even ostracized within the community because they're seen, oh, you're necromancers, because they can actually control the dead. They can actually call the spirits from the dead and make them inhabit like kind of shadow creatures and fight for them. Like, it's really fucking cool. Oh, this book rocks. Anyway, fast forward. Amari is now on the run. Zaylee and Amari are on the run. The king orders his son, Inan. Now we come to Inan, who is Amari's brother. The king orders his son. It's similar to Zuko. This is a very Zuko situation here, because the king is fucking cruel as shit and is so filled with hatred that he's trying to teach Inan to be that way too. I'm trying to figure out if I want to spoil this detail about Inan. I don't know if I want to yet. So Inan goes down and to the village to try to get the scroll back and try to get Amari back, and his men were a little bit trigger happy and they accidentally burned down the village. Zaylee and Zane's dad died because of it. Their dad was killed in the fire. Zaylee now fucking hates Inan. She hates that motherfucker. And I think what happens is in the commotion, Inan actually touches the scroll. Amari is not a part of this magical race. We find out Inan is half. I think his mother had like a bit of this blood in him, and as a result, Inan has the ability to control dreams and minds. Like his faction is like a mind bender type of thing, where they can bring people into what they call a dreamscape. It's effectively like an area that is like they're in their control. It's like Inception, where they have like it's like a lucid dream where they can control everything and they can pull people's consciousness into that dreamscape state. They can also kind of, I think, read minds. They can also like control emotions. Like they can make people feel calm or make people feel happy. And I think they even might be able to do a little bit of mind control. But we find out that Inan has this ability. And he has this unknown why this connection happens, but he has a connection with Zaylee such that he can go into this dream state and she'll be there and they can talk to each other. So the whole story kind of goes on over 2 books where at first they hate each other. They hate each other so much. She wants to kill this motherfucker on the spot because he's the reason why her father's dead. He didn't start the fire. He didn't start the fire. Sorry, he didn't start the fire. But it's literally his fault that her dad's died. So she wants to kill this motherfucker. She says, "Honey, it's on sight. If I ever see you in person, I swear to God, I'll fucking kill you." Like that's her thing with him. But each night they keep going in each other's dreams and they're talking and then they get to know each other, and Zaylee tells him about her life and how she watched her mother be killed and all this shit. She about that motherfucking action. It's on sight. It's smoke. It's straight smoke with her. However, they start to kind of fall in love. He starts to feel... Sorry, my nose is like super... I think I'm getting sick. He starts to feel empathy for her and then eventually starts to fall for her. They start to fall in love. And she starts to fall in love with him, but she's just like, why the fuck do I love this guy? He's kind of sexy. Like there's like extended paragraphs in this book where like she's like is describing how sexy he is. So I can only imagine how fine this dude is. Apparently he's light skinned and like he's got like a white streak in his hair. Like apparently he's super sexy. So I think they even have dream sex. I'm pretty sure they had dream sex. I swear to God that happened. I swear, I gotta read the book. I swear to God that happened. They fucked in the dream. So he's supposedly in love with her, and he supposedly loves his sister. But he betrays her so many fucking times. Any fucking time he had the opportunity to give them a heads up, to like be on their side, he dimed them out every fucking time. Dimed them out to their dad. And every single time people got killed for it. Every single time. And then Zaylee kept fucking forgiving his ass. That motherfucker must got that fucking stellar cosmic dick or something, because like she would not stop forgiving this motherfucker. I was like, girl, stop. He sucks. And it never stopped either. Even to the end of the second book, he still kept fucking betraying. He never, actually, I think he even died at some point. I don't even fucking remember. All I know is Enon sucks. Sorry, that was like a whole ass. This is me just telling this book to you. If anything I ruined, y'all, it's in like the first third of the book. You need to read these fucking books. These books rock. Oh my God. So I may have spoiled some details in the first third of the book. Read these books. They rock. The last one, Mystique X-Men. And I'm specifically talking about J-Law's Mystique. Okay, let's talk about this. So this is no longer spoiler. Okay. So Mystique started off in the series super awesome. You know, she was evil. With Magneto, and she cared, and she was proud to be a mutant, and everybody, there's like this whole politics where like, oh, mutants are the bane of society. Excuse me, you should just want to be cured and all that stuff. She's just like, no, I'm mutant and I'm proud. And that was great. Fast forward to Days of Futures Past, which is arguably like probably one of the best X-Men movies. They frame Mystique as being, I don't even remember the context of it. Something happened where Mystique wanted to murder Bolivar Trask, who was played by Peter Dinklage. And murdering Bolivar Trask started kind of a Terminator Judgment Day type of shit, where like in the future there's like sentinels that are like mutant killing robots that hunt down every mutant on Earth and brutally murders them. And in order to prevent that future, they had to send Wolverine back to the past to stop Mystique from killing Bolivar Trask, which is cool. That whole movie rocked. Unfortunately, after that, it's not really explained why Mystique is suddenly good. Like, she's suddenly good now. Like, you see her in, like, fucking X-Men First Class and, like, the X-Men Apocalypse and stuff. She's, like, one of the X-Men now. It really is never clear why she became good. And putting all of that aside, she eventually becomes one of like the most prominent members of the X-Men, you know, even better, you know, morally than Professor Xavier even is. Professor Xavier has like questionable morals compared to her, right? Fast forward to the latest X-Men movie before they sold the rights to Disney. They killed her off in like the first 30 minutes of the movie. Basically, Jean Grey becomes Dark Phoenix, and she can't control her power. And now the X-Men are trying to stop her, and then she accidentally kills Mystique, and they use her death as like a driver to like get Magneto to want to kill Jean Grey or something. They really just used her to start drama, and I thought that was such a fucking... Oh God, I thought that was such a fucking misuse of her character. Anyway, this is less of her redemption arc being bad and more the series did her dirty. I think that'll be the next one I do, is like characters where the series did not do them justice. Other than that, girl, that's my fucking definitive list. That's my best redemption arcs and my worst redemption arcs, and it took us 2 hours to get through that.